first thing to bear in mind is that online learning can be helpful, because the content, the material and the design of that is all prepared in advance. So that kind of makes things more accessible in the sense that for deaf or deaf-blind people can have the time to sort of prepare that information and access it sort of before having to do anything with it.
There's a good opportunity there for others to learn, and I think if a deaf person wants to, learn how to support blind people, or even a hearing person wants to learn about BSL, they can actually watch the videos as well and get some information from it. So it can work both ways.
I think it's a good way of raising awareness as well, because not just for deaf people, but if you see sign language in the course material, and you don't, or issues about blind people, and it just makes you start thinking about accessibility issues, and that can have a massive impact on students. And the more you see or exposed to use of BSL, I don't know what the right word is, but it becomes much more sort of commonplace, really, much more mainstreamed in people's thinking.
Yes, that does cover everything, but I think it also links in with the BSL Scotland Act to promote sign language.
Yes, it is, and promotion is an important part of that act. Yeah.
I just wanted to say about app creations. I think some universities have got apps, is that right?
Yeah, that's right, yeah. So some universities have their own apps, and so the example from one university, you can click on that, and it's got different sections, and there's one that I think has to do with timetabling, one that has to do with assessment dates and so on, and then there are bus and train times as well. So, it'll tell you the time of the next bus, it'll tell you if they're delayed or cancelled or whatever. Something like 5 categories in it.
So it matches exactly your needs?
Yeah, so if there's a change to something, so it's not necessarily connected to the learning experience, but to the student experience more generally. When you have to dash for a train, for example, or you'll think, oh, well, I'll get the next one, or that bus has been cancelled, or there's a timetabling change, but you've got all that information in
not
one
only
place.
does it benefit deaf people, but it benefits everybody.
I think there's a lot of potential with technology. Well, by talking to deaf people, having that engagement with deaf people, because the deaf community know best what they need.
I mean, once the local plans are released in October this year, and just have that continual conversation with deaf and deaf-blind students. If you don't have that conversation and you don't ask, if you don't have any students, you can actually speak to the organisations, go to deaf clubs, even go to schools, because a lot of deaf young people will be, who are at school, will eventually be transitioning into college and university, and especially for this being the first one in October. I think maybe next year, maybe somebody in 5th year has maybe decides to go to college and university. And I think by opening up that channel of conversation with them will be beneficial.
Yeah, so it's continuous learning and development, really. And it works both ways, because colleges and universities need to think about what's possible. I remember last year, or maybe a couple of years ago, I was talking to a young deaf person and explaining that in America there's a university for only deaf people at Gallaudet. And this young person was like, what? A university where everybody, obviously they use American Sign Language there, but everybody signs. Wow, I would love to have that here. But nobody had ever told this young person that this was even a kind of possibility. It would be lovely to think that Scotland could have its own deaf university. America does. I don't know if it's possible here, but it's a potential development. And I think universities and colleges need to think about the potential. And in the same way, so do deaf people. As I say, it's very much a kind of a two-way conversation with everybody learning from each other and making improvements.
And it's also not just about studying, we're talking about the students themselves, it's about staff as well. And it gives deaf and deafblind people opportunity to become employees so they can become role models to deaf and deafblind students. If you had a deaf person working in reception or the library, and the first point of contact for a deaf student is an actual deaf person, that would be great.
And it doesn't have to be at the level of lecturing staff or whatever. It could be support services. It could be cleaning staff.
Security, yeah.
Yeah, you know, because they can be the first people you turn to for help if you're not sure where you're going, for example. So anybody who can sign would be great.
It's definitely key to talk to the deaf people themselves.